Okay, the first thing we want to do to this image is increase the color. You can do that by pushing Control U or going Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. Once you get that open, you'll pull your saturation up about 30. There you go. It'll be different depending on the picture. Some pictures need more than others. And then I'm also going to go back and I'm going to go just to the greens and I'm going to pull those up a little bit extra, so the back here, all the grass will be a little bit greener. And I'm also going to do the same thing with the blues so that her eyes and their shirts will be a little bit brighter. To soften the background, what you need to do is go over here in the Layers palette and click on the layer that you have, then drag it down to the New Layer button. It's the one down here in the corner. It looks like a piece of paper with the corner turned up. Make sure the top layer is selected and then go to Filter, Blur, and then Gaussian Blur. And you'll want your radius to be somewhere around 30, maybe a little less or a little more depending on your image. Click OK. It'll make your picture look really blurry. But it's not going to stay that way. What you're going to do is click on the mask button in the lower left on the Layers palette. That'll turn the top layer into a mask. And how the mask works is it's kind of like cutting out a hole so you can see what's in the bottom layer. If I turn off the top layer, like I close the little eye, then you can see what the bottom layer is, and it's, you know, perfectly sharp and normal. We're going to turn the top layer back on. Make sure that the button, the white box here, is selected. And then make sure that we have black as our selected color on the right hand side in the main toolbar. If it's white, you can click the switchy button to change it, or down here in the corner, that does it too. And then you'll want to also make sure that you choose your brush tool, and then make sure you're using a brush that's nice and soft. This one here would be like a hard edge brush. You want to choose any of these softer edge brushes. Okay, and then on your opacity, you want to change that to about 25. And then put your cursor over the picture and use the right bracket button and keep pushing it until your cursor gets about the size of their faces. Once it's a decent size, you'll want to click and kind of make little swirlies around on the picture there. And just keep swirling a little bit to the edges to kind of pull. This is like taking away from the top layer so you can see more of the bottom layer, which is still sharp. And then you can kind of shrink it down using the left bracket button, and you can do a little more in there and then keep shrinking. You'll want to make sure to go in near the jawline and kind of run over that a little bit. That'll pull the sharpness back in there along the hair, the edges of his collar, his hairline. Definitely will pull in his hair so it doesn't look too smooth. Okay, and just keep kind of brushing over areas that need to be sharpened a little bit, that are a little too blurry. And especially his face, we don't want him to be too soft or it'll look like he's wearing makeup. So I'm brushing over his face a bunch, just a little bit over her face. And then I'm going to zoom in using the Control+ button. That zooms in. And I can click space and I can grab and move the whole page so I can see where I'm going. I'm going to increase my opacity to like 70. Okay, once I do that, then I'm going to push the left bracket button to decrease the size of the arrow to about the size of their eyes. And I'm going to pull all the sharpness back in their eyes. I don't want their eyes to be blurry at all. I'm also going to do the same thing on the teeth, the eyebrows, just kind of pull back all the sharpness you can because we don't want those to have any blur. Okay, and then I'm going to push Control 0 and that brings me right back to the original view. And now I'm going to go over to the right hand side near the layers and click on the little arrow and scroll down to Flatten Image, and we're done. Okay, so now that we have our image brightened and the color a little bit brighter, I'm going to go ahead and add a vignette, kind of a dark edge to it. So in order to do that, I need to select the marquee tool over here. Sometimes it looks like a square or another shape. If if it doesn't show, like if it shows a square, just right click and then select a circle, and then you want to go up here and make sure that says 200 in the feather. It probably says 0 or something else. You want to make sure that says 200, and then over here make sure you're on normal for your style. You don't want it to be fixed aspect ratio or fixed size. It has to be normal. Once you get that done, you're going to draw a big rectangle on your picture and make sure that it kind of goes to the edges. Okay, and then see, I've got a little extra space there and not as much space. I've got more space on this side than on this side, so I'm going to kind of click and drag the selection so it's a little more centered. It wasn't working with clicking, so I'm just going to push the arrows instead. Okay, now we have a little more even spacing there. And then I'm going to click with my cursor in the center. I'm going to right click and click select inverse. Now the selection's on the outside here. I'm going to create a new layer by clicking the new layer button right down here in the lower right hand corner. There we go. And make sure that black is selected over here. If it's not, obviously you can push this little color selection box thing and change it. Make sure black is on top. And then what we're going to do is push Alt backspace, and that kind of fills in our selection. And because we had a feather on there, it doesn't go straight, it doesn't have a harsh line, it kind of blends. So that's why we put the 200 feather. Now that that's done, it's a little bit too dark, so what we're going to do is go over here to the opacity on the layers palette, and we're going to decrease the opacity. We don't want it to be too strong, maybe 30 looks good right there. And you can kind of see what it looks like before and after by clicking the little eyeball next to the arrow, or next to the layer there. You just click on that little eyeball and it makes it disappear so you can see what it looks like before and after. So it just kind of burns it in and makes it look a little more distinct. And once that's done, you'll go click on this little arrow here and click flatten image, and you're done.